tell us a lot about Mitchell Bat Company, your story, and the kind of the journey that you've been on since you started. So I heard your launch now presentation, and that was a great thing. You should totally check that out for those listening. He goes into in depth with a lot of different events that he's gotten to be a part of. But I'm going to let him share with y'all kind of where this all started and where it's kind of taken him. So go ahead.
Yeah. So it started in 2013. So it was 7 years ago. But it really started in 1988. It's kind of where the story begins. So for the next 3 hours, I will. No, just kidding. Just kidding. So yeah, all kidding aside, 1988. I'm 10 years old, and I didn't collect baseball cards at the time. And a buddy of mine, Jason Hargrove, he's my best friend in third grade. He at his house one day, he like shows me his baseball card collection, and he shows me a Darryl Strawberry rookie card. And I knew about Darryl Strawberry because of the 1986 World Series, and you should go back and watch it on YouTube. The whole thing, it's pretty phenomenal. But there was a big event in Game 6, and the Mets ended up pulling it off, and then they won in Game 7. So I knew about Darryl Strawberry, and Jason showed me his Darryl Strawberry rookie card, and as soon as I saw that card, I was hooked, and I wanted baseball cards for like every birthday, every Christmas. All the money that I ever had, I bought wax packs, Upper Deck, in 89 when that came out. And so I've just been a huge baseball collector, baseball cards and baseballs. And, I would love to read stories about Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle. And so there's like the history aspect of baseball, and then like the current side of baseball at the time I was a kid. And I played baseball. So it was just like this trifecta of just loving the sport. And, fast forward to being an adult, like I said before, it took me 10 years after the strike in the 90s to come back to baseball. And when I came back like full force. Like we were going to Wrigley for birthdays and, traveling to go see the Reds play and the Braves. And so I was kind of back into it. And in conjunction with that, like prior to Mitchell Bat Co., I worked in advertising, and I kind of still do. And so I had, in 2013, at that point, I had done everything from like print design to web design to video editing to podcasting wasn't really big, but I was recording audio for video, building apps. I had started a company, like a startup, just a product. And so I had a history of starting things in 2013, and I had a history of being able to just make stuff on the computer all by myself, and I have a marketing degree. And so all of that combined with just like this, 1,000 ideas a day, wanting to start something, and me telling my wife like, hey, what if we did, and it's like all these different ideas, and so August 2013, we were about to have our second baby girl. We have 3 girls now. And I get this email from kind of an internet friend named Brad Davis. And Brad is a designer, and he's kind of in the circles of the people that I admire. And Brad sends me this email, and he said, hey, I've created this team of designers, and we are going to rebrand this skateboard company in Nashville called Salem Town Board Co. And we want you to do the website, and we want you to do a video for us. And it's all free. It's all pro bono. So you won't get paid, but it'll be a fun experience for you, I think. And he named off all the people that were going to do it. And it's like Matt Lehman. Matt Lehman designed my logo, and I was a big fan of Matt Lehman, still am. Tom Okerson, and these other guys, that were going to be a part of this, Micah Smith. And so I agreed. And at the time, like I said, like we were about to have a baby in like a month at this time. And I was taking on just tons of freelance. I was building websites at night, editing video at night, and just doing all these projects to just try to like stockpile cash before I was going to be out of commission for a while because of not sleeping. And so on top of all of that, I agreed to do this like really big free project. And I'm really glad I did, because doing that project and being at the skateboard shop and seeing them work with their hands and build skateboards out of wood and paint stripes on the skateboards and like build everything with their hands, I was like, man, I wish this is what I've been missing, like making something, like getting my hands dirty, because everything that I had created the last like decade was all on a computer, all clicking a mouse, but nothing had I created was made by me, by my hands. And so did that project. That was August of 2013, completed it, launched it. And then it was loved, my favorite projects I've ever worked on. But I was left with this void of like wanting to start something like Salem Town, something that's made of wood, something that's I can paint. And with me being a huge baseball fan, of course, is baseball bats. And so I was like, okay, I don't know how to make a bat. I don't know where to get a bat, but I'm not going to start there. I'm going to start with just sketching. And so I took out my field notes, shout out Aaron Draplin, one of my favorite dudes.
Oh yeah.
And started just drawing these baseball bats. And I still have the field notes. It's like my prized possession, this is where it all started. And I would draw these baseball bats one after the other with different stripe patterns. And I would just like draw it really fast and just flip the page and draw another one. And I started posting those on Instagram. I don't even know why I did this. This is kind of back when Instagram, when you posted something, everybody saw it. It wasn't the crazy algorithms and stuff.
Right, the good old days.
The good old days. Yep. Yep.
Just
back in my day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started posting that on my personal Instagram, and looking back, like I really don't even know why I did that, because I wasn't starting a bat company. I had no idea how to start a bat company, if I even wanted to. And close friends were asking me like, hey, what are these bats? These are cool looking. And they were just really just sketches. And I'm just like, oh, I'm just messing around. And then people started, like strangers were like, hey, these look really cool. I want to maybe, if you make this a real thing, like I'll be your first customer. And I'm like, okay, I'm not starting a bat company. Like everyone calm down. And so like the more and more like, messages I would get like that, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to take these into Photoshop and I'm going to make these look like real bats, or real like renderings.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took them into Photoshop and made them look real. And as looking back on them, they're just terrible mock-ups. Like I'm like almost embarrassed of them, but it got the point across that these are decorative bats with stripes on them. And for whatever reason, it sparked something in a lot of people. And then I was getting emails from people and they're like, I want to buy a bat. Like, I want to buy this. And so I was like, this is crazy. I can't believe this. I've had so many dumb ideas and I've launched them, and I've spent time and effort like launching things that never got off the ground. And for whatever reason, this stuck. And so,
gotta give the people what they want,
All right. I know. Supply and demand. So I told my wife the idea. This was now fast forward. So from August to October is kind of when I was kind of ideating on the idea, and I kind of had a rough idea of like how I can pull this off. And so I talked to the guys at Salem Town. I was like, I have an idea. I kind of made a mood board of like all these different things. Like there's hatchets, there's axes, there's boat paddles, there's canoes that are painted up with stripes, but nobody was doing baseball bats. And so I felt like there was like kind of a hole in the market. And so Jacob Henley is the guy that started Salem Town Board Co., the skateboard company. And I told him this idea. I had a kind of a presentation, at his shop, and I showed him the PDF, whatever, of my ideas. And he looked at it, and looked at me, and he said, Jeremy, you're going to put your kids through college with this idea. And I was like, no, that's not, there's no way. Like, this is impossible. And he goes, no, I think this is a really good idea. I think you should really pursue this. And so I'm like, all right. And I told another mentor of mine, I told him the idea, and I said, what do you think? Is this crazy? Like, I don't even know how to do this. I don't know how to paint stripes on a baseball bat. I don't even know where I'm going to get the bats. I watched one YouTube video on how to make a baseball bat, and I turned it off like 2 minutes in. I'm like, well, I can't do that because I know nothing about woodworking. And the more and more people that I told everybody at my job. I told, longtime friends that I haven't talked to in a while. I was like, I feel like I feel led to do this. This is like it's pulling me to do this. And so around October, I told my wife the idea, and I said, I want to put stripes on baseball bats. And she said, how? And I said, I don't know. And she said, well, why don't you wait until after Christmas to do this? And because we just had a baby in August, so we weren't sleeping. I had a brand new job working at this ad agency that I'd always wanted to work for. Life was stressful. And she said, why don't you wait till after Christmas and let things slow down? And I said, okay, all right, that's probably a good idea. And fast forward to a couple of weeks after that conversation, I'm watching Game 6 of the World Series, and it's Red Sox versus Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
And the Red Sox had won a World Series like a couple of years prior to that, 2008, I believe. But for some reason, this World Series was like all over the news. It was like a lot of people were talking about baseball, and baseball was top of mind, I think, for the entire country, if not the world. It was just one of those seasons that they just spun the story in a way that was romantic. It was exciting. And I'm watching this game, and it's like the 7th inning stretch, and I'm thinking about the bat company, and I didn't have the URL, didn't have a website, didn't have anything. I had these like really bad mock-ups of these bats, and it's the 7th inning stretch. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just like buy that URL on my phone, like during this commercial break, no big deal. And so I buy the URL, couple of, the couple of at bats happen in the 7th inning. And I'm like, you know what, why don't I just like spin up a quick website? No big deal. Like, nobody's even going to see this. It's just stupid. I can't believe I'm even thinking about this. And so I created a website like right there on my phone, and hooked the URL up to it. And then I was like, well, I might as well like hook the PayPal account up, and just in case like someone buys one, they'll have a way to pay for it. And I'm like, what do I even charge? I don't even know what I even charge these things. And I was like $90, $100. I don't even know what to charge. And so I had 2 bats on the site, and one was St. Louis Cardinals colors and stripes, and one was like Boston Red Sox. So they were all navy and red and white. And I had 2 bats, and I kind of had a logo already because Matt Lehman, my logo designer, he had already designed like a personal brand logo for me. It's just Jeremy Mitchell, and it's like a script, and the Mitchell's in the bottom. And so in talking to my wife like a couple of days prior, because I would bring it up, and she was like, don't do this until after Christmas. And I was like, well, what should I call it? And I was like, should I call it Nashville something? I don't even know. And so my wife was like, why don't you call it Mitchell Batco, because you already have that Mitchell part of your name, the script in your logo. So just take off the Jeremy and adjust the M a little bit, and then there's your Mitchell, and then just type Mitchell, just type Bat Company underneath, and there you go. There's your logo.
A little art.
And it was just like, and done. And so created that. And so all I had at launch was a URL, a very basic website, a cobbled together logo, and very poor mock-ups. And so I launched the website, and simultaneously I launched the Instagram account, and I launched it, and there was almost like this like wave of like, get ready, come over me. And like I was watching the game, and David Ortiz was coming out of the dugout wearing a military helmet. Like they were just partying already in Boston, and game wasn't even over. And And so I'm finding people on Instagram that were at the game. So this is when Instagram newly released the geotagging. So you could like tag where you are.
Oh yeah.
And so I was finding people at Fenway Park. I was searching the hashtag Red Sox, and I was messaging these people, DMing them and liking their photos and commenting, and people were commenting back. And I got like probably 100 followers, like just like in the first like 30 minutes of me
That's
doing
so
this.
cool.
Yeah. And so through the website, you could create discount codes. And so I was creating like free shipping discount codes and giving them out to people on these bats that like didn't even exist. And I put on the website that it would take 6 to 8 weeks to get a bat. Cause I figured, I did the math. I was like, okay, if someone buys one tonight, then I'll have 2 months to figure it out. Well, the Red Sox won in Boston. I created a bat company in Nashville. And 4 days later, someone bought a bat. And I'll never forget, I was sitting at my dining room table and I get this noise come on my phone that I hadn't heard before. And it was from the app that it was like a big cartel app or whatever. And it was like the cash register sound. It was like cha-ching. And
That's a good one.
yeah,
I was like, to hear.
I was like, what was that? And someone bought a bat, sure enough. And I seriously couldn't believe it. And I'll never forget that moment. And it was seriously like every day for that whole Christmas season, from October 30th or like, beginning of November when we've made our first sale, to well after Christmas, we were still selling bats.
Wow.
And it hasn't stopped. Like 7 years later, like the amount of like just the amount of amazing people that have poured into this, people like yourself that care about my story and that are fans. It's I can't even describe it. Like it makes me feel purposeful. I don't know. Like it's neat to have something that I created kind of like out of nowhere stick, and people still love it. And I don't know why. It's special. It's real special.
That's definitely a blessing, because not everybody gets to like launch a company and then just like see it come into fruition that quickly. Like I'm just amazed that like it was the last game of the series, you launch it, and post baseball season, people are wanting these bats.
Yeah.
Because typically, like especially right now, everybody's looking at football. Like they're kind of checking that out now, and they're kind of zoning out of baseball. But like the fact that it's like baseball's over, but this whole wave of Mitchell Bat Company starts and just like takes the whole world by storm. It's crazy to think that happened that way. It wasn't at the beginning of the season, it was at the very end, and people had an interest and wanted bats. Right. That's just so wild, the timing. And it makes the story all so much cooler, because it's like, you've had all this anticipation and build up, and then it's like it happens, baseball is over, and then it's just the beginning.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I haven't thought of it that way, but yeah, that's a cool way to say it.
And then I remember you speaking on some collaborations. So why don't you tell us a little about those and what that was kind of like? Because that's kind of like the next step, it seems, from this point of the story.
Yeah, the first collaboration we did. Some of these early ones are kind of foggy, and I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if it was Ebbets or if it was Ralph Lauren who was first. But Ebbets, I had a list of people that I wanted to reach out to tell them about Mitchell Bat and to see if they wanted to collaborate. And the three people on that list was Ebbetsfield Flannels, John Contino, and Leatherhead Sports. Mm-hmm. And what's funny is John reached out on Instagram just in a comment, and I was like, I've been a John Contino fan before John Contino. Like I've been a fan for so long, and he's like, hey, I want to collaborate on a bat. And then Ebbets, kind of the same way. I can't remember if it was an email from Lisa Cooper the co-founder, or if it was through Instagram. I can't remember how it happened, but um, we ended up talking on the phone for like 2 hours right after I started, and just to be able to have a conversation with Lisa from Ebbets the way that we did was just super, just phenomenal, because Ebbets Flannels has been around for almost, over 30 years now. And she was like, I love the bats. I'd love to get some in our store. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, this is crazy. And at the time we only had 11 different designs. Like now we have like 100 and something. And the original 11 designs, I painted up, the original 11 and shipped them out to Seattle. And they were in their store for until they recently, their store closed for a minute. But to be represented inside the coolest baseball store in the world is something else. And then Ralph Lauren, kind of the same way. Like I get an email from someone from Ralph Lauren, and the email was basically like, hey, I want to hop on a phone call with you because we possibly want to carry your bats in our spring collection. Could you hop on a call with us? And so of course, yes. And so Ralph Lauren, the guy on the phone was like, yeah, these bats came to us yesterday. We found out about you yesterday and we have to have them. And I said, how did you hear about us? And I say us, it was just me, me and my wife, and I said, how'd you hear about Mitchell Tobacco? And he said, it came from a reliable source. And I was like, what does that mean? And, he just kind of kept talking, and I asked him again, and he was like, it's a reliable source. And I was like, am I in trouble? Like, is this the FBI? Like, what who's your source? And he said, David Lauren was gifted a bat. And so David Lauren is Ralph Lauren's son.
Oh my gosh.
So David Lauren is married to Lauren Bush, George W. Bush's daughter. So they're big time.
Golly, that's a connection.
So I went back to try to figure out like who in the world bought David Lauren a bat, and there was like a New York, like Manhattan address, and I was like, that's got to be it. And it was like, I didn't know the person's name, and so someone bought him a Mets colored Mitchell bat, and he saw it and he said, I got to have it. I got to have these in my store. And wow. So we negotiated a price, and I feel like that was probably April of 2014. So I'd only been doing it for like 5 months. And what's crazy is like when a company like Ralph Lauren wants to work with you, like you kind of grow up really fast in the startup world, and you learn a lot of things. And they're talking about, having like a $5 million insurance policy and all this legal stuff that I had to do. And I learned a lot, and it was a lot of back and forth. And but yeah, our bats are right there in the store. And so Paul Cunningham from Leatherhead Sports, like his footballs were in this collection along with my bats. And so I've gotten to know Paul from Leatherhead Sports. Are you familiar with Leatherheads?
Yes.
Yeah, the footballs and the baseballs and stuff. And so he's been a mentor of mine since really the beginning, because this was like 2 weeks after I launched. I get an email from ESPN, and they're asking me if I wanted to be in their holiday gift guide for Black Friday. And this was literally 14 days after I started it. And I don't know how they found me. I don't know how they saw my website and thought it was even anything legitimate. and so ESPN emails me, and they want to feature us on their site. And he was like, just send us high-res photos. Excuse me. Send us high-res photos of your products, and we'll feature them on Black Friday. And I didn't have high-res photos. I mean, the bats I had barely started even painting them. And so I took a couple of customer bats and took them out to my driveway and laid out some like white poster board and stood on a ladder and took a picture with my DSLR and sent them those pictures. And I think that was kind of when I was like, okay, this is going to get nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Like strap on, because this is going to get crazy. And this whole time, I have a brand new job, and, a brand new baby. And I was staying up till like 2 a.m. Like I would come home, at 5 o'clock, I'd eat dinner. So I would work on the bats from like 6 p.m. to like 2 a.m. And then I would sleep for like 3 hours and then get back up and just paint until I had to leave for work. And then every day, like during Christmas break, like during the Christmas, shopping time, that's what I was doing just to maintain, like to get the orders out the door. And looking back, like that was like, I mean, borderline a nightmare, to be honest. Like it was pretty bad. Like there was bats kind of like everywhere, like every corner of our house. And we don't have a huge house, we're just in the suburbs of Nashville, spray painting bats, and having them dry in various tubs across the house. There was bats in our baby beds, in our cribs, under our piano, like in the dining room. Stuff was being stored like in our cars, boxes and shipping and all this stuff. Like I was going to the post office like every single day. I didn't have a really good system down, to be honest. Like I should have done it so differently, but it's very serendipitous how it all kind of came down, and very scrappy. And I'm still scrappy. It's still a very lean operation. And it's fun to talk to you, and it's fun to think back on all this, because it kind of happened about right now, like 7 years ago, about right now, I was thinking about starting a bat company, and here we are 7 years later.
Yeah, I'm sure it's flown by, and like, especially when it hit the next level with some of those bigger brands, it just like went into overdrive, and it's just kind of, you just keep hustling, you keep going, and you almost don't get a chance to kind of pump the brakes and kind of reflect.
Yeah.
You're like, this is all happened. I mean, even me at the beginnings of my career as a creative, like all the things that have happened, this whole like world shutdown that we've had has kind of allowed me to kind of reflect on my past 7 years, and
Yeah.
and kind of where I want to head next, and things like that. So I'm sure that's a really interesting situation for you to be in, especially being 7 years out of this now.
Yeah. It's hard to stop and reflect. I did 2 weeks ago, I did go camping by myself, and that was fun to just like sit in silence, not work on anything, not watch my phone, just like literally just like a campfire by myself in the middle of nowhere. And I recommend everybody doing that.
Oh yeah.
Just get away from it all, and just reflect, and think about nothing. And I haven't done that. I haven't just literally spaced out in a long time.
And be able to think I'm 7 years into a bat company.
Yeah.
Full
Yeah,
time.
it's crazy.
And what point did you, because you mentioned you were working in another job, at what point did this become full time for you?
Yeah, so that journey has been kind of off and on. So in 2015, at the end of 2015, I was laid off from my dream job, and I was devastated. And I had a shop at the time. I had a space to go and paint. And I remember losing my job and emptying my office out and moving that all to my other office. And it was 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. It was actually Columbus Day. We just celebrated Columbus Day. So it was like Columbus Day, and I lost my job at 8 o'clock a.m. on a Monday. That's not a great place to be, especially with two little ones and one on the way, another one, a third on the way.
Right.
And so I went to my office, and I was like, okay, I got bats to paint. And so today I'm going to paint these bats, and I'll look for a job tomorrow. And then tomorrow came, and I was like, I'm just going to paint these bats, and I'm I'm going to email some people and get some freelance, or maybe I'm not, maybe I'm just going to like take care of these bat orders that are outstanding. And so, cause it was, Christmas shopping, we're right in the middle of Christmas season, basically right now. And, I did that for, it was probably like 8 months or so. Like I was just like working full time for the bat, doing Mitchell Bat full time. And I remember like when it happened, like when I lost my job, people were sending me like LinkedIn messages and DMs and texts and like, congratulations. Now you can go and pursue your dream. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think congratulations is in order. I kind of need a job. Like I kind of need some money, something steady.
Right.
I got, 3 kids and a mortgage and picket fence and the ketchup fights and all the stuff.
And at that point, you're just a few years into the business, and you haven't really seen the longevity just yet. So I'm sure that's kind of another spot in your mind.
Yeah. So 2 years, that was like, I was 2 years into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was going to my shop every day. I was getting there at like 7:00 in the morning, and I was, t-shirt, basketball shorts every day, and sitting in my little office by myself quietly. I realized like, I don't think I like this. I don't think I need to do this full time. Like, this is not who I'm supposed to be. I miss people, and I miss the vibe of an office and a company, and just that buzz that you get on a Monday morning staff meeting, and you're with your team, and you're building something that's bigger than yourself. And
that's really everybody right now, in this.
I know. Yeah.
I miss my office, and all those people. So yeah, that's funny how the parallels, t-shirt and gym shorts in the office, and missing the, it's funny.
Yeah. And so I did that long enough. Like I think I was like, okay. And I would email agencies, that could hire me to work remote if they needed me. And I felt like I had more to give. Like I wasn't done. Like the job was not done. Me losing my job at this ad agency, I missed the office vibe, and I missed the steady paycheck, to be honest. Like, and so I got another job, and I was a contractor, and I was like, well, if I'm a contractor, then I can just like kind of come and go as I please. And then, they offered me a job to stay. They offered me like a associate creative director position to like run a team. And I was like, man, I can't really pass this up. And so I joined that team, and was there for 3 years or so, and got headhunted out of that company into another company. And so I don't know that Mitchell Batco needs to be my full-time job for it to be a success. And I think a lot of people think that it is my full-time job, but it's not, and it's not right now. It's not for now. And I think I'm very thankful for my full-time job, especially during a global pandemic. And I'm thankful for that Mitchell Bat has survived this pandemic, and it really has been a lot of work this year to get orders out the door. I think a lot of companies that weren't affected by COVID have realized, like, let's take care of our team. And a lot of people have ordered, 25 Mitchell Bats, with their logo on it, and to give out to their sales team. Their all-star sales quarter goals are made, or, a company member that has like knocked it out of the park, they want to give them a Mitchell Bat. And so I've seen an uptick in corporate sales this year, because I think that there's a lot of companies out there that weren't affected by COVID for whatever reason. Maybe they're in healthcare, or maybe they're service the military, like the stuff that's not going to go away. Right. They want Mitchell Bats, and I'm here to paint them. And I think that, I go back and forth between like living the dream of like, oh man, wouldn't it be so awesome if Mitchell Bat was my full-time job? But how cool would that be? But I think, what's cool? It's cool to take care of your family it's cool to, but it's, my wife is a stay-at-home mom and she does freelance too. And I think that, 9 years ago, we made that decision, when we had our first baby. I was a freelancer working from home, doing websites and videos and everything. And again, looking back on that time, like I wasn't happy. Like I'm not happy being at home by myself, clicking a mouse. And so she worked and I was freelancer, and then we switched. So she came home and I went back into the workforce. And I think for now that's what it is. And I think that I'm growing something. Mitchell Bat is still growing. Like there's still ideas that we haven't touched on yet. Like there's still things that is still left to do. And maybe this is something that I get to do full time when I'm an old man.
Yeah. This is just
Who
year
knows?
7. You're thinking, at past year 7, what it's going to look like. Is it still going to be part-time, or is it going to be that full-time gig that kind of just, it's still developing, and that's really cool though, to hear you, to share that journey, because it's still going. It's not like you're, retired and you're looking back on all this just yet. There's still so much to be done. And that's just a cool energy to be in.
Yeah. And, I joke that I have 2 full-time jobs. Because it is some weeks, some months, I put in the hours of a full-time position, and that's not healthy. Like it's not healthy. 80 hours a week is not healthy. And so it's hard for me to take breaks. Hence the solo, like running off into the woods camping trip that I took. That was really good for my soul. But I think that, I see this on LinkedIn a lot, where people will have an announcement. They're like, "Hey, I quit my job. Now I'm full-time doing my side thing," whatever. And I read the comments and it's like, "Congratulations, go get them." And sometimes I wish I could be like, "No, keep your day job. That's important. Like you can build your thing on the side." Like, I don't think that there is this like magical like passover into working for the man into like doing your side hustle, because now like there's no safety net. Like it's all you. And if someone can accomplish that, that hats off to them. But that's fantastic for them. But for now, this is what I'm doing, and this is how I'm gonna grow the company for long term. I would almost hate it to depend on Mitchell Bat to do the things that I want to do for my kids and my wife. I think it would put a lot of pressure, unneeded pressure on it, and I'm having a lot of fun right now, and I want to continue that.
So with it being still a side hustle kind of project, have you had a team kind of pull that load away from you sometimes, where you're still running the business and everything's kind of going as planned, but you have, different team members building more bats, maybe even a warehouse or something like that, that's kind of taking that burden from you?
Yeah, I used to have that. Now it's just me. Hold on just a second.
No problem.
Yeah, so in 2013 to 2015, I did everything. Painted everything, shipped everything, sent out all the emails, posted everything on Instagram, showed up at the weekend markets when I was doing them by myself. And there came a point, and I was doing it all in my house. And I remember this, it was a Sunday night at like 2:00 in the morning, and I got to be at work the next day at 8. And so I'm trying to finish. The last thing I have to do is just ship this bat, box this bat up, put a label on it, and then I'm done for the weekend. And I could not find my tape dispenser. Oh, couldn't find it. And 2 in the morning, I'm tired. I'm looking under I'm opening every drawer, every cart. I couldn't find my tape. And I was like, I cannot believe I can't find my stupid tape. And at that moment, I was like, that's it. I quit. I'm out. And so I gathered everything that was Mitchell Bat related and shoved it in the back of my car and went to bed. And I went to bed, and the next morning I was like, I didn't quit. I'm not going to quit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mitchell Bat. I didn't mean it. And
First breakup.
I know. So then I text my buddy Rob, who had been letting me use his like paint booth on the weekends. And so I would paint during the week at the house. Then I would go to this furniture shop. It was like this 200-year-old building right behind Greer Stadium, where the Nashville Sounds used to play, where I grew up watching the Nashville Sounds. So I would drive by the stadium every time to go into this shop. They donated their space to me like on the weekends, and it was awesome. But it was a lot of back and forth. And so I text Rob, and I was like, this is 2015. This is like spring 2015, prior to losing my job. And I texted Rob, and I was like, I got to get out of my house, man. This is driving me crazy. I don't know where anything is anymore. There's bats everywhere. It's driving everybody nuts for me to be here doing this stuff. I need to figure out like some space that I can rent. And he responded, and he said, why don't you come down to the shop on Tuesday? I have some time in the morning, and we'll talk about it. And so I walked in there, and it was like this really cool showroom. If you go to my website, like one of the hero images, I think is still there of my old shop.
Mm-hmm.
I've had two shops. My first shop was in a 200-year-old building, and it was like very photogenic, no air, no heat, and a lot of ghosts occupied that building. And so I walk into his showroom, and there had been this other company that was like subletting like the showroom, and tall ceilings, big windows. And he was like, I want to give you this. And I was like, what do you mean, man? This is way too much space. Like, no way. And he goes, yeah, I'll rent this to you. I won't charge you a lot. Just move your stuff in, and we'll figure it out. And I was like, it's too much space. All I need is like a little porta john. Like I don't need anything. And he's like, you'll fill it up. And he was very confident in that I would fill up the space with orders. And sure enough, I did. Like I had a whole like system in place. It was perfect. It was awesome, except for the ghosts. And so there's this guy, his name is Skylar Anderson. His brother and Jacob Henley started Salem Town Board Code. And that's how I met Skylar. And so Skylar and I would kind of end up at the same weekend markets. Him selling skateboards, me selling bats. And over Christmas in 2014, we were at this pop-up shop on 12 South, and he was like, hey, let me know if you ever need help. And I was like, I need help. Like, I really do need help. And he was like, okay, well, let me know. And it wasn't until I got the keys to that shop. It was a Saturday in 2015. I was in there walking in my space for the first time. It was mine. I had a key to the building, and I sit down. I'm just looking at the space, and I was like, oh man, I wonder what Skylar's doing. And so I texted Skylar, and this was a 4-month ago conversation that I had. And I said, hey, I have a shop now. Do you want to help me paint bats? And he said, what's the address? And he was there in like 30 minutes.
Wow.
And so he sat down. He and I were sitting across from this old like leather ottoman, like just like on a folding chair. I mean, it was so primitive. So 2 folding chairs and an ottoman. And I roll a bat, I tape up a bat with stripes. And I was like, this is how you do it. You try. And so handed him a blank bat, and he taped it. And I was like, no, scoot it in. I was kind of coaching him a little bit. And he rolled a bat, and he showed it to me. He's like, check that out. And I twisted it, to see the stripes were not wobbly, and it was perfect. his first one. And I had trained probably 20 family members to help me. No one could do this. No one, they would give up after one stripe. Um, all my friends that were interested in helping me, because they knew I needed help, but they just didn't want to, or they couldn't, or they just physically just like could not do the work the right way. And so Skylar, God bless him, man. He was such a blessing, because he took over, like not at first, but eventually he took over 100% of all the bats that were ordered, in about so that was the 4-year span. So 2015 to 2019, for 4 years he painted bats for me, and he trained his brother, he trained another guy to help. And so there, at the most I've ever had is 3 painters. And when we did the collaboration with Louisville Slugger, we painted, I think 100 bats for the home run derby. Louisville Slugger shipped me 100 blank Louisville Slugger bats. We painted them and shipped them back to Louisville. And then they added the logos and the clear coat, whatever, and handed them out to a bunch of MLB players. Wow. So that was crazy. Like, I took off a lot of time at work to do that one. And, so I had a full team there. But Skylar recently, him and his wife went from 0 to 4 foster kids. And so now they have a house full of teenage boys to take care of. So he's taking some time off. He didn't quit. I'm not going to let him quit. He's just taking some time off. And so now it's me doing it by myself again, and kind of back to the basics. And there's a part of me that likes that, because I feel like, looking back at the last 4 years prior to this year of me, now I'm painting everything. I kind of missed the reason why I started it in the first place, was because I wanted to get my hands dirty. Mm-hmm. And then I hired a painter, and I stopped painting, and I kind of lost a part of the heart of why it even exists in the first place. But I miss Skylar. I miss him a lot, and I hope that we can figure out how he can come back. And I miss my shop. I closed my shop down at the beginning of this year. So I brought it all back to the house, and just operating out of the house, keeping it lean, not paying rent, not paying workers. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's a dream. My dream is to have a shop here at the house, like a carriage house or a garage has air conditioning and heat, and an office, and make it a home office kind of situation. But I'm back to sitting on the couch and watching baseball and rolling bats on my ottoman like it started.
So it seems that the whole, like, you doing it yourself, like there's got to be like a therapy to it. Like it's like you were saying, the hands-on element to it, but I feel like there's like this therapy that's helping you get through life, going back to paint the bats, or whatever it is, and keeping it in home, and keeping it, whether it's in like a shop at your house, kind of keeps it from becoming that big, massive corporation, or that job that you would eventually maybe get burnt out on. But it's kind of like that thing that's always going to be there, and kind of therapeutic. So there's definitely, to me, it seems like there's something about that.
Yeah, there really is, Reese. I mean, when I sit down to tape a bat, the cool thing about it is I know exactly what it's going to look like when it's done. Mm-hmm. It's the same reason why I like mowing my grass. Up and down until it's done, and then job well done. You can look back and like, I just did that. And it gets repetitive at times, but it's coming from a day job where I'm in meetings a lot. I lead a team, and I have to support my team. They have questions. I have questions. I have an office with a door. It's closed a lot of times. Sometimes it's not. A lot of interruptions. Whereas with painting a bat, start to finish, like there are no interruptions. Like I can't think about anything else except for making these stripes on this bat perfect. And when you're editing a video or building a website or writing copy for an email, your mind can wander. Like it can go in a million different directions and you can get sidetracked. But with a bat, painting a bat, that's what I realized early on is like, oh, this is like this is good for me. Like this is good. This, like you said, this is therapeutic. Like I can focus on one thing for just a little bit and then get back to like the scrambled eggs in my head of ideas later. But it is definitely it's a mind shift.
And it's interesting that it's like this spontaneous venture that kind of popped up at like the right time in your life, that's kind of there now, and something to always go back to. And then the whole work part of it, it's, if you really love it, they say if you love what you do, it's never work. And
Yeah.
so as long as it doesn't get too out of hand, and it's in your hands, I feel like it will never feel like work, and it'll be that
Yeah.
therapy. So
Yeah.
that's always something to kind of go back to. It's really cool.
Yeah, I agree.